If you want to achieve any target, the first thing you have to do is define it with utmost clarity, because without clarity, you would lack both the intent and the momentum that anything worth pursuing would require. And today in this video, I want to talk to you about the context of your career growth, and more specifically, if you're looking to land your next role outside of your current company. And I'll attempt to give you a working framework on how to set career goals that are both achievable and, more importantly, worth achieving. Because if it doesn't inspire you, then why do it in the first place? Now, fair warning, this is going to be a dense topic, so listen closely. The first thing to think about is your why. I understood this topic very vaguely thus far, and lately my views on it have changed. And I used to incorrectly think that this why boils down to a single question as like, what do I want out of my career? And this is defined so loosely in the self help and motivational circles that it isn't really helpful. Most people obviously want growth and prosperity in their career, but that's just too vague. That's unhelpful. A better and more pertinent question for your current situation would be, what season am I in? What is my requirement for this particular season in my life? Because what you prioritize right now perhaps wasn't the thing that you prioritized, let's say, 5 years ago, and likely would not be the thing that you prioritize in your future. So, right now, what are you really looking for? And I want you to think about it very specifically. So, if it's money, then how much are you looking for? If it's fulfillment, what does fulfillment mean to you? If it's work-life balance that you're after, then what is it something that you're trying to find that time for? If you want a seat at the table, why? What is it that seat at the table gets you? Are you looking for better problems to solve? Well, then what do those better problems look like? You gotta be specific. Are you looking for more autonomy? And so on and so forth. So you could want all of those things. And don't we all want everything in this world? But it's also important to prioritize. And you start with what your non-negotiables are. What are your absolute non-negotiables? And from there, also look at the broader source of your why. And I like to classify this in two categories. One is a pain focused, where you're running away from something, and it could be your toxic boss or an unfulfilling role, or there's an impending layoff that is what you're moving away from. And the other category is more ambition focused, where you're moving towards something. And this is where you want to lead a larger initiative or want to grow to the next level, or you're looking for a specific kind of work, perhaps in AI or emerging tech, and so on and so forth. And there are both leverages and pitfalls of each of these categories, depending on, like, and be honest with yourself which one of these is. It can't be, generally speaking, both. So when we think of pain focused, for this category of people, their leverage is that they have much higher intent to achieve the objective. For people who are running away from something, as Daniel Kahneman suggests in his prospect theory, people are more sensitive to avoid potential losses or pains than to reap potential gains of an equal magnitude. But the pitfall is that when people are running away from something, it makes them desperate. When we are working to avoid the pain, we make hasty and impulsive moves, and it makes it harder for us to stick to the strategy. And also, because of continued exposure to pain, people often start setting low expectations and standards for themselves. As an example, they are more likely to pick any offer that comes their way rather than carefully considering it. And let's talk about the other category, which are the ambition focused people. And this category is the exact opposite. Things are, generally speaking, not too bad in their current role. And because of that, this kind is more likely to make a well thought out move. But again, the pitfall of this category is that people have so little intent that they keep putting their job search onto the back burner until it becomes a real pain in the bottom. And that's when they become pain focused to act, but only worse, because all along you could have done something about it and you didn't. So it's important to be aware of your leverages and pitfalls so you make better choices and can stick to the plan. If you can recognize these patterns in yourself, it's essential that you come back often and to remind yourself of these. Now that you understand your priorities and your source of why, the next question that you want to answer yourself is, what kind of environment would give me the kind of opportunity that I want? And it can't be, hey, anything is fine. You gotta pick because often when what one environment can give you, the other cannot. And you can begin asking yourself these questions like, hey, do I want to be in a small, mid-size, or a large company? What is that culture that I'm looking for? Do I thrive well in build environments where like these are startups and new product development, building something from scratch? Or do I thrive in transformation driven environment where these are typically larger companies, older systems, and then they are looking to transform that? Or do you thrive in a scaling environment where these are mid-sized disruptors who are moving fast and growing fast? Do you want more of the base pay, or do you want more in equity and bonus? Like, what is your criteria? Do you prefer long-term incentives versus like, hey, absolute cold hard cash, that's what I'm maximizing for? And are you a particular expert and there's a particular area that you love doing and does your environment provide that? Because not all companies can provide everything that you want, and this is where your prioritization would come in. And lastly, knowing this, now you have to know your entry point. So the question you want to ask is like, hey, can I make a compelling case for my candidature at this place now that I have found the environment? And it's important to consider what your ideal role or company wants from you. What can you tell them that will make you stand out from rest of the crowd? And most job seekers completely omit this part, and this is a big mistake. And they skip this step because it's both hard to do and it's often vague. It requires careful thought, know-how, and deliberate work to market yourself effectively. And with the little bandwidth that most tech leaders have, they assume like, well, with the market being this competitive, I doubt if someone would even consider me amongst thousands of candidates. So what's even the point of going and doing that hard work? And this is the very cognitive dissonance that you have to call yourself out on. Because if no one sees you, then what's the point of going that extra mile? But wait, isn't that going extra mile the reason why they would see you in the first place? And if you're thinking, hey, do I gotta market myself specifically to each role? Isn't that going to take a lot of time? And the answer is yes and yes. It's going to take a lot of time and you got to do it specifically for each role. But the opportunity you're pursuing is also should be hopefully worth the effort. Otherwise, again, what's the point of doing it anyway? So assume that the companies that you're applying to have already received a flood of candidates. Now, before they even invest time to talk to you, they want a compelling reason as to why they should. And trust me, if you can show them concisely in a manner that speaks precisely to their problem, they will talk to you. As to how you can do it at high level, I've inserted some of the guides and resources that will help you in terms of like how you can write an executive resume, how you can find and contact the hiring managers, what you can write to the hiring managers, how you can stand out in a crowded job market. All of those will be in the description. But once you have clarity on that, then you want to lastly think about is where would the next role take you in the coming years? Does it fit in the grand scheme of things? I'd use this question more to assess the offers once I get them rather than assessing the jobs before I apply to them, because like that does not help me much. So when you're making a career move, you're also committing your next few years at least to a roles, and the trajectory of what heights you can achieve in your career depends heavily on that. And if you want your next move to be strategic, ask yourself these questions. Number one is like, hey, is there room for me to grow? Can you see yourself being challenged well for the next 2 to 3 years? What happens when you have delivered that big ask that you were brought in for? Do things go into maintenance mode from there? What is the long term vision of the leadership? Try gauging these answers to such questions during the interviews. Number two is you want to assess your colleagues and leadership and their tenures. Look them up on LinkedIn, see how long they've been there, what stuff they have been working on, and what background do they come from, and check how frequently and quickly have they been promoted, because who you work with matters, your environment matters. And another question you want to ask is, hey, does it excite me? Does the very initiative that you would be working on excites you, or are you walking into a problematic environment that is devoid of growth and too many decision makers and too little opportunity to innovate? Just the usual maintenance mode stuff with a better title. And once you define these objectives very, very clearly, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll be asking the right questions. And when you ask the right questions, of course, you get the correct answers in return. And your job search will be manageable and actionable. You make your next move that would be an objectively a good decision because it's rational rather than being emotional. And you are much more likely to achieve your targets when you're clear. And from this point on, all there's left to do is execute. By the way, if you are an IT or tech leader who now has clear idea about their next move, what you want to do, and is looking for help to land your next role, then we offer a complete done for you service for all of your job search efforts, where we will position you as an expert in a narrow market. We'll create your resume and LinkedIn profile. We'll find and apply for the right roles on your behalf. We'll find the hiring managers and along with their contact details, and then we research the role to write a compelling email to those hiring managers that gets your foot in the door with the conversations. And we help you through interview prep and offer negotiation stages, working with you all the way until you land an offer that you're happy with. If you're looking to explore about our services, you can do so at wolfmentoring.com. All the best.